Clapping. Yep. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back to the podcast.
I love the clapping.
The clapping's great. Okay. So, and was it announced this week or last week? Rocket came in. So they bought Redfin.
Recently, yeah.
Bought Redfin a little bit ago and then doubled down and bought Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
So they've got approximately like $7 billion worth of acquisitions in the last month and a half or so.
They're going ham.
And they are ready to rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you make of it?
The first time that I saw a Rocket mortgage sign was in the yard of an in-laws of mine who's a builder. He had a leftover piece of property from a developing he did an old house on it and had a for sale sign, Rocket Mortgage. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Right? Like, what's that about? And it wasn't an area that I serviced, so he wasn't like, cheating on me or anything. But I was like, tell me the story. And he said, oh, well, they put it on the MLS for free, or maybe it was like $100. And then I don't have to pay a commission. And I was like, that's an interesting model. It's a old one, right? But like, there's a lot of mortgage companies that look at the transaction of real estate agents as a loss leader, right? And so this has been happening for a long time in the real estate business. Back in the 80s, banks tried to get in the real estate business. It was the S&Ls back then, and their goal was to turn real estate agents into hourly clerks with name tags that were, a part of their bank. So that they could take and keep the commissions. And so like that's still going on today. It's just kind of on steroids, especially with, those recent acquisitions of what Rocket had purchased. I don't think it's good for the space. I don't think it's good for the consumer. And as a real estate agent, I don't think it's good for you.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
One of the videos you sent me was talking about how everybody's trying to go end to end. So like you see all these acquisitions happening where it's like, teams are forming. We had a bunch of little teams and now the bigger teams are starting to form.
Yes.
And it's like, ooh, this is interesting to see what's going on.
100%.
But it's all about like an end to end play. But you said loss leader. And for those of us that don't know loss leader stuff, like it is,
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
There was a gas station that I would always stop at on the way to Omaha, Nebraska that had 25-cent hot dogs, right? Like they're probably losing 5 cents on every hot dog, but you're going in, you're buying gas, you're buying soda, right? Like you're making money.
Yeah.
So that's the loss leader. That's the way that they've looked at us in the past. And this isn't new. Like they've had real estate companies, they bought real estate companies. You think even like Prudential, right? When they were around, right? That was insurance. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, and financial services. And so like they wanted that data of those home buyers so that they could sell them their other services. It's been a common thing. They want to be able to control the transaction. And so like in my business, we were talking to somebody the other day, co-marketing, right? And in my business, I tried to put that together to benefit me. Right. And like that was always the pushback from my peers and competitors. They're like, oh, well, that's not what's best for the consumer. And there is a bit of truth to that. If you're not doing it the right way, And
Yes.
so I was talking to somebody who's, on Zillow's program and now a part of their referral agreement in Flex. Like to be on Flex, you have to send X amount of transactions through their in-house mortgage company, right? How they're getting away with that on RESPA, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's definitely the end goal. Like they want to be able to control the transaction, keep the commission, pay a pittance to the real estate agent that they don't see value in, and then make all the money off the ancillary services, the insurance, the title, and especially the mortgage.
Yeah. And I've seen that with agents who try to advertise in the whole buy with me, sell for free.
Yep.
Or if you buy a house, then I'll list your house for 1% or something. And they just try to
performance guarantees.
Yeah. And a way to take less on the commission of something to get more, or to get the regular thing on the other one, but to acquire a customer.
Yep.
And it's funny to see, like the video you sent me was talking about how individual agents can get together and try and throw together like an end-to-end solution to compete.
Yeah.
But when you're competing with multi-billion-dollar companies that have so much in the coffers to just be able to throw stuff at the problem, like I forgot what Zillow, I think it was Q2 last year, it was their like investor call for the quarter, and like they're very clear on what they're trying to do, and they're trying to get to 4% of all transactions in the United States to be done through Zillow.
Yep.
They
don't just want the real estate stuff.
Correct.
They want the other ancillary stuff.
Yeah. And they talk about the super app, right? Which the whole plan there is that they're training the consumer to be able to go there to look at real estate, but then offer all the solutions. So the mortgage side, like rentals, they're starting to do a good job. Clay was talking about it the other day. He had his house on Zillow, and he came back and he was like, "This was amazing." As a
lead magnet?
Yeah, for him to run to try and fill up his rental. The whole back end experience, they were able to apply. They did all the background check. They did all that stuff through.
When we were at our house, that's what we did. We went through Zillow. We just we signed the paperwork through Zillow.
Yeah, that's what he changed a contract, and he was showing me an easy PDF filler just to change a contract real quick.
Yeah.
That he's doing from his phone.
Because they want the data. Back in the day, like when we were trying to create an integration with Zillow, and this was not quite 10 years ago at least. The amount of information they wanted was appalling to me. I'm like, they don't deserve all that information. It's not even the customer, it's the agent's customer. And so I think, if you're a Rocket Mortgage and you see the play that they think Zillow is looking to create, they're like, okay, this is a huge threat to us, right? So we need to consolidate. And I think Redfin was a good buy. Redfin has good tech,
really good tech.
Not the best model as far as the real estate agent is concerned, but you want me to pull it closer? Okay. But yeah, I think it makes sense. And I think that we're going to see this heat up more as time goes on. But I also believe, it takes a long time to change a consumer's behavior.
Yes.
And, the reason why there is RESPA and the reason why they want you to refer, 3 different vendors is because of pricing, right? And so if you got a captive audience and they don't get to shop, or they don't have really the wherewithal to understand the process because they haven't done it before, or, done it 2 times in their whole life, they're going to get fleeced, you know? And there's such a discrepancy in pricing on a lot of these things. I remember I was doing a transaction not too long ago, and the title company was charging me a lot more. And the mortgage broker on that was my old mortgage broker from my mortgage company. And he replied back to me in the email, and he was like, "Damn, did you take a look at that rate sheet?" And he had CC'd in the mortgage or the title company, and she was like, "Oh my God, I can lower the fees." But he was just doing that to me as a joke, and he was telling me, he's like, "Hey, I can get this a lot cheaper." And so like that doesn't happen when you have end to end. And I think at the end of the day, even though it is David versus Goliath, like an individual agent versus a mega conglomerate from Wall Street or multiple in this situation, the relationship is what's most important. And the relationship is always going to supersede. And that's why they haven't been able to disrupt the industry in the ways that these other players that have come in have tried. That's why they haven't been able to put together a model like a super app that had a lot of staying power, because the agent still guides the process. So guys, don't ever forget that. Like, you guys are still in charge of the process, and you're the one who should be explaining to the consumer, "Hey, look, I've got these relationships. Hey, look, there's other ways you can save money. There's other people that can do it for a different price. You need to go and you need to talk to these other people." Because at the end of the day, it's hard to put the mortgage in front of the real estate transaction. I was just doing some consulting with, one of our sales people, and I was talking about credit, and I was showing them how all that works. And, I was like, "Go download Experian and let's go over it." And when we were going to go over it, I was like, "How unexciting is this for you?" He's like, "Yeah, it's been weighing on me for a while." And I was like, "Yeah, that's how people feel when they talk about getting pre-approved. It's not very interesting or exciting, because it's like looking at all the skeletons in your closet." So that's why the real estate transaction will usually always be first, right? It's going to predominantly be the driver, because they're thinking about what they want, right? Yeah.
Stewman talked about it one time when he was selling mortgages, and he was like, the minute I started doing well was the minute I realized that no one wakes up in the middle of the night being like, or wakes up in the morning thinking, "Oh man, I can't wait to get a new mortgage today." But they will wake up and be like, "I need to get a new house. I need to get in a new house." So if you leave with the hole, not the drill.
Yeah.
Well,
in fact,
when you buy a car, like that process alone deters some people from going to get the car, because it's just, but like once you get excited about getting the car that you want, you're like, "Well, yeah, it's worth 9 hours of my time sitting in the office going back and forth. Let me run to my desk. Let me run to my manager real quick."
Yeah, and that's what I was telling him. I was like, that's the same feeling that people have when they're talking to a real estate agent. The real estate agent says, "Well, have you been pre-approved yet?" Right? Like, there's nothing more repelling than that for a consumer. right out of the gate.
But I don't want to waste my time.
Right before you have a relationship with the person. Yeah, they know why you're asking. Like,
right.
Yeah, are you wasting my time?
Well, and then you just immediately say, "You are a dollar amount to me." That's it. Cool.
Yeah. I don't care about you. I don't care about your needs. I don't care about your wants. I just care about the money. So it's a very repelling thing. You got to be able to insert that at the right time as you're guiding them through the process. And that's why, could they succeed? Absolutely. They got enough brain power, enough cash. But as an industry, if we're better and we're more vested in the relationship and helping them, guide them through the transaction and looking out for those pitfalls, not only are you going to get more repeat business, but you're going to actually help them in the process to not get fleeced, with these all-in-one things.
Yeah.
And, I remember when Keller Williams rolled it out, right? They had something street mortgage, and it was the same thing. Like, we're going to do an all-in-one, and we're no longer a real estate company, we're a tech company. Like, it didn't work. So there's that.
Who did they sell to?
Oh man, yeah, that was another big thing in the news. It's private equity. Yeah,
right.
And it was a majority share. It was kind of shocking, really, because you wouldn't think that'd be the play for them. But I think we're going to see more of that in the space. I think throughout this year and really the next few years, as the economy normalizes and some of these shocks to the system, stop wobbling everybody's legs, and we start to kind of get our feet out, under us. I think we're going to see more acquisitions in the space, more things like that heat up. And the thing that we got to ask ourselves is like, is this good for the industry? And if the answer is no, then we shouldn't support it, right? The argument and the pushback is like, well, it makes me money. Fine, use it, right? Use it and abuse it. You know what I mean? Like, use it to your advantage, but don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
That's like saying doing heroin helps with my stress.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe, but.
The argument could be made. We were talking about Uber earlier, right?
Yep.
Like, what's Uber's ultimate goal? Autonomous vehicles, right? So
Yep.
Everybody that's driving Uber is funding the future of them not being employed, right? It's a necessary evil for them. They're not thinking long term anyway. It's more of a gig thing. But when I look at real estate as an industry, it's been around for a couple hundred years, right? Like, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we were just watching a video this morning, Hermosi put out something that was about influence, which he said, Robert, I think he was saying Cialdini. I've always said Cialdini.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I got to look up how you actually pronounce his name. But if you have never read the book Influence by Robert
Cialdini. We're calling it Cialdini.
We'll go
Cialdini.
Call Dini. You need, if you are in real estate or in any kind of business, you need to
I agree.
read it, because one of them that he was talking about was he used a very crude example that I will share with you, and you can edit out of this if you'd like to. But he was like, imagine having enough influence over somebody where you could tell the president of the United States to drop his pants and you could put your finger in his butt. He was like,
this is Cialdini?
No, this was
Hermosi.
This was Hermosi in this video. He like just released it this week.
Damn, Hermosi. He's usually pretty PG.
I know. He went aggressive. So I laughed. Like, it was definitely a attention grabber, like midway through the video. But he was just talking about having the ability to have authority, right? So like when you're a proctologist and you tell someone to do that, they do that, right? So like not anyone else.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Not as
It wasn't just random.
Okay.
It was actually, he was making the point on authority. Yeah. But when you get to the part of people want to do business with the people that they know, like, and trust, and it's all about how you make them feel, right?
Yep.
And so the one thing that we will forever he's not going to be able to get back from that one. The one thing that we're not going to be able to ever like get over the fact of like buying real estate for most people is a not super transactional transaction. It is like a super emotional transaction, where people get nervous, people get second, third, fourth opinions, and they're just, should I do this? Should I not do this? Like, you recently went through some of this, right? Like, and it is exhausting for some people, and they need a person. Like, it'll never be, and like Zillow's goal of 4% still leaves 96% of the industry, even when they're successful. The scary part isn't the 4%. The scary part is what they'll do once they have 4%.
Right.
And so, not to toot our own horn, but to toot our own horn, like what we are trying to do and what we will do with house house jet, and being able to provide something that is an alternative to those places
100%.
that is doing it the right way with the agents in mind. Like the whole, we will succeed like FUBU.
Forgot about FUBU.
Good old.
Yeah.
I don't know that we should succeed like FUBU, because he literally just said, I forgot about FUBU.
Yeah, that's true. Damon John. No, it was just
For us, by us.
For us, by us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I remember
like,
LL in the Gap video or commercial. Yeah. Threw that in there, you know? Yeah.
it was by us.
Yeah. It's like a secret organization within the organization.
Yeah.
That's what he means by FUBU. But, you know, that was a success story for Damon John regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if we can, when we are able to start capitalizing on some of the momentum that we already have built, we've been able to partner with a lot of really awesome agents. We're going to be able to continue doing with that. And then we'll be able to start doing some of these things and offerings to be able to help them along this process too.
I wouldn't do it in that manner, right? Like I would make sure that the agent's still controlled and that the agent got a piece and that wasn't, you know, agnostic of the agent.
Correct.
Because I think that, again, like the agent controls the transaction and they should control the transaction, because there are so many houses that I sold that they needed that guidance. They needed that reassurance. They needed that Sherpa. You know what I mean? And a lot of times when you're thinking through things, it is emotional and it is hard to have another side of logic. And if you know, like, and trust the person that's guiding you through the process and they give you some better things to think about, right? Like, oh, I'm getting nervous. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I get that one? Or should I go back to the drawing board? You know, and you give them some logical things to think through. They're like, oh yeah, this was a good decision, right? But my mental model for that is you can't make a bad deal good. You can't make a good deal bad.
Yeah. Like and I think through like that conversation we were having yesterday, like one of the NAR commissioned a report years ago, and the number one threat to the industry was the amount of marginal agents, right? So there was a stat that came out recently. Did you see how many agents, active agents, sold zero in 2024?
Yeah, I always take those with a grain of salt because I don't know their source.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it was NAR.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't remember, but it was an astonishing number. So if it's anywhere remotely close to that, and they keep active agents as like somebody that has their license active, not even paying to be a part of a local board or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, I always take those with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Yep.
But when you look at that, like there are a lot of people in the industry that just kind of do it part-time. They're not fully into it. And then that kind of ruins it because some of those people provide a lesser experience than 100%. Others. But if you can go in and you can genuinely just add value. If Evan, who's buying his first house right now, had to pull you as a real estate agent randomly, like not hopefully randomly, but he would be in luck because he's trying to do it as an investment property, all that fun stuff, which you have a ton of experience on.
100%.
So like that 3%, 6%, that'd be worth way more than that in the long term for him.
Without a doubt. I think what's so interesting is like, you know, I've had a real estate license for 25 years, and even being an hour away from, you know, Lake of the Ozarks where we're headquartered, like when I go to sell my house up there, I hire an agent. You know what I mean? I still am in that MLS. Like I could totally do that myself, but I know the nuances. I know the work. I know the difference of a good agent, you know?
Yeah.
The same thing with down in Florida. When I buy stuff down in Florida, like I'm grateful to have somebody represent my interests. I'm more than happy to pay the buyer side commission on that. Right. Like it would be penny wise and pound foolish not to, but that's 25 years in the business. Like I understand the value, right? The average person, maybe not. And you know, the worst form of learning is through mistakes. So like they might learn later, you know what I mean? Yeah.
That's the thing that you have said a billion times agents need to do to be successful is get good at explaining and demonstrating their value.
Yeah.
But you know, because you don't have 25 years, but if an agent gets good at demonstrating that in, you know, an hour meeting, you'll win.
Yeah. Value unarticulated is value unappreciated. And we all suffer from that, you know. That's why you got to have some work on your business to make sure that you're able to communicate those things. And we would talk about the mortgage side. We would talk about how we're going to help them negotiate, you know, the lowest possible down payment, the lowest interest rate, the lowest monthly payment that's available to them. And usually those are the things that you know, somebody looking for a mortgage, that's always their three things. It's their top three, right? They're either rate, down payment, or monthly payment shoppers, right? Term, yeah. And so helping them through that was part of the process. And so if you're not doing that as an agent, you're missing the mark and providing value, and especially if you're not talking about it in the beginning of the transaction. That's a much cooler way of talking about whether or not they're pre-approved, because you're talking about their interest, right? Like, let me help you with this thing that you're about to do and make sure that I guide you the best way so that you get the best possible deal, because that's part of my job, right? That's part of me looking out for your interest. And I think a lot of people just, they because they're not mortgage professionals, just don't do that. They're like, oh, that's not my wheelhouse, so just go to your local bank and send me a pre-qual letter, right? That's a dereliction of duty, in my opinion. Yep.
Well said.
If you're looking to grow your business and you want to get exclusive referrals sent to you every single month, go to housejetreferrals.com to see if your area is still available.